All right, so just as a review, we're just understanding based off of the stored procedures I sent, we're trying to understand just generally um, what needs to happen for data to flow through. So if we open up our database, we'll see we have our staging tables that we loaded through loading the flat file. Again, we were able to accomplish this by right-clicking, doing tasks, and then import flat file. Once we have the data here, we then need to get the business's data into both the businesses and the categories. So for the categories, we have the category 0, 1, and 2. We want to union these together so that we can just have one category column and one alias column. And right now it looks like we can't make an edit to this categories, so we're gonna have to do it through our stored procedure. So we will go to DBO categories update, and we'll right click this here, and we will click modify, and we'll get this screen with our stored procedure in it. And as you can see, we do select star, and we select the distinct of the union of the categories 1, 2, and 0. Now, one thing we need to do in addition to this is we need to do a if null on categories 1, or we can do where a categories is not in and a categories. I think we can do a is null. I think it should just be a. There we go. So what I did is I just did where a.categories is not null, just added that now, and then I ran the stored this, which then edited the stored procedure. In order to run the stored procedure, I'm going to right click on the stored procedure and then do execute. And this is going to run the stored procedure off of our local compute, and we'll do OK. We get a nice return value of 0, which means that it worked. So now if we go into our mart.categories and we right click, we can just select top 1000 rows from here. And you'll see we have all of our categories and all of our aliases here. But instead of in 6 different columns, we have them in 2. So that's now our categories dimension is loaded for us. Now if we right click on mart.businesses, we do select top 1000 rows. You'll see we only have the columns and there's actually no data. So let's try and run our business update. We'll right click and we'll do execute stored procedure. And we'll go ahead and click OK. We get that nice 0 return value. We can now right click this to select top 1000 rows. Oh, that's the wrong one. We can then run this. Remember last time it returned just the columns. And now you can see we have a lot of data in our columns now. So this is now our mart.businesses category. Any questions so far?
What was that 0? Was that like the indicator that it finished running?
Yeah, it finished running successfully. So you can have the return value be something else. Um,
Oh, so is this a different stored procedure to run the stored procedure?
yeah, this is like a just a so generally before you like when you run SQL, you tend to do like execute and go to just to say like, hey, do this one, you know? Um, so this is just kind of for a formality for running it, I guess. But that's
I
basically what you get. Yeah. Um, yeah. Okay, so the same thing can be said about region. You know, we run the region one, run the reviews one. Now, there's one that I haven't written, but I realize now that I need to do is I need to somehow get the mapping between businesses and their categories, right? Um, and so from there, I would basically um, just grab the aliases and the business ID, right? So it's really just getting a subset of this business's uh, staging table. So I'll do that right now just to kind of show you. It's pretty easy. All we're going to do is right click on, we open up programmability, right click on stored procedures, new stored procedure, and we'll get basically the same dialog, except here instead of alter procedure, we have create procedure. So here I can say business category mapping. And we don't really need any parameters here. I can add my information here just for documentation purposes so people know who edited it last. It was created 6. Description is one category. All right, so as begin, we can set that on. And here is where we'll really just begin our insert select. So we can do insert into mart dot um, business category mapping. I know, kind of a long name, but I think we should do underscore or camel case. No, we'll leave it like that. All right, insert this. This just means I have to create this table, which we'll get to that in a second. And we're really just going to want to do the business ID and the category. But we want to do the alias because it has no spaces. So it'll be a little bit cleaner. We can select distinct. Here we can open up SF businesses to see what the columns are. So we're going to need the ID of the business. And we're going to need the category 1 alias, category 2 alias, and category 0 alias. So we can go back to our stored procedure. So select linked ID. What was it? Categories. No, I think it's a little bit off, but essentially the idea is very similar. I just need the business ID and the category alias, right? And I want them in 2 columns because eventually I'm going to connect my, um, my data mart of businesses via ID to this mapping. So the many will occur in the mapping part, and the 1 will occur in the business. That's okay. And then I also have a foreign key to a category mapping. In this case, it's just 1 relationship. Um, and so that's also going to be this will also be a many, a column as well, to ideally a 1 single alias um, in the categories dimension. So this is kind of our fact table, our factless fact table. So yeah, any questions so far? I'm actually going to open up the categories updates because it's pretty similar.
So the table for business category mapping still needs to be created, right?
Yeah, yeah, we still need to do that. So I'm kind of working backwards.
Good. Gotcha.
So let me make sure I can do the union correctly. Select distinct. I feel like it's somewhat redundant to do this like union thing twice, but I'm not quite sure. And we don't have really a where condition, right? Unless it's, or where, it's kind of the combination, right? We can have nulls in this one where let's just ignore the where condition for now, just to get this going. Execute, see what happens. It looks like it worked out. Now, as Albert was talking about, we do need to create the table. So I'm going to right click here, do new table. And we need 2 columns, right? Business ID. And we'll just do and varchar max. And then we're going to need category alias and varchar. Can't be more than 50. Okay, here we can just do save, and we'll call this what was it? Business category mapping. Category. Okay, we'll have to change that in a second. So we need to refresh this. It'll now show up here in DBO. This is what the alter schema query was. So it's going to automatically show up in DBO. So we're going to do alter schema. Art. What is it? Transfer. BO business categories mapping. We don't need to save this. We can run it or refresh. All right, now it's here. Now we need to change the name here. Business category mapping. Good. Now we can go back to our stored procedure. And we can try running it. All right. All right. Cool. So now what we could do is we have data in our business categories mapping. We have data in our businesses. We have data in our categories, right? Well, now we can open up Power BI. And we can get data from a database, SQL Server database. The server is obviously the server we're working in. Database. This case is Yelp. We'll run it in import mode. And we do it based on database credentials. And then you'll see we have access to all of our tables. We can do our staging ones, but we're actually going to grab all of our data mart tables. We can load the data. All right, and here we can now access our tables, and we have the marked categories, so we know that that connects to businesses, and here we have the category aliases. So the aliases are going to connect here, and the business ID is going to connect here. And just like that. And then we can kind of start planning it out. We have the region, which is the country, and the zip code. If you have the zip code, did we bring in the country? We might need to add in country to this, but for now we can do zip code. And then we have mart.review, where we have the business ID here. So this ID will go to the business ID. And the user ID would go here. And that's our data model. So really, if you kind of look at where the stars are, we have two fact tables, this kind of categories mapping, and then we also have a fact for the reviews are facts. Yeah, any questions on kind of where we're going with all this? No, we'll just kind of keep exploring then. So we got nothing in our region, so we can do our region update, see that that works. All right, so this one we didn't get that nice 0, but we did get invalid object mars.regions. So it looks like an error in our stored procedures. We're going to go right click, modify our stored procedure. Mart.regions does not exist, but mart.region does exist. We have that down here too. And I think we can do invalid column name. All right, that looks good. So we can execute the region stored procedure. Oh. So this looks like an issue with our size of our table, or the size of columns. So it says a string or binary data would be truncated in table Yelp dot mart dot region. Column city truncated would be San Francisco. So if we go to right click our table and we click design, we get back to that table designer that we had earlier. And you'll see that all these are nchar 10. Now we probably need at least 100 here, but we'll do 250. Zip code. Now I would say we can safely assume under 50 for this one. We'll probably need 250 here and 250 here. Control S to save. Ooh. I want to save to a text file really quick. And we'll put that in our documents. Training SQL. And we did that. We're going to drop our table as it told us to do. City, zip code, country, state. All right, city, zip code, country, state. We had problems with this. We need this to 250. Wanted this as 50. 50 and bar chart 250. We will allow nulls and everything. We will call this region with singular. We'll need this later. Regions update that got done successfully. We move the schema there. It's good. Now we need to do the region update. And now return 0. If we refresh, we have our mart.region. We right click and we do select top 1000 rows. And there we go. We have all the zip codes and the city and the country. So now we got our region table done. How's our reviews table look? All right, looks like our reviews got loaded. And then I know I haven't done users yet. So we can do that. We can. I'm just not going to deal with that for now. But yeah, that's basically stored procedures. Writing them, setting those up, and Will, as you were talking about, you're going to need a new stored procedure for every data mart table that you want to populate, ideally. From there, we're going to go bring this to Azure. And what we want to go back is to our home, and we want to go to our data factory. I guess we don't have one. Training. I actually want to do this East US. Oh, we can do West US too. Data receiver. Yelp API. Review and create. We'll do this later. All right, so then we create it. Now, this is just like an engine, right? And we can hook it up to our pipes, and it can move the water in our pipes for us. But we need it to also have access to where we want it to, take and drop things off, as well as where to access the stored procedures. Um, and so we're going to create a linked service once that pops up for us in a second. Is it networking? Operating access control. Where's link service? Hold on. Hmm. Mhm. Why does it keep doing this? Mhm. There we go. Sorry. Azure Database, Azure SQL Database. So now we've connected our database here. So when we go to author, we should be able to add a pipeline. And then we can do a procedure. We can link our Yelp DB. Oh. We get to whitelist the SQL Server IP. So we will leave this for now, because we can still publish it. We'll call this dimensions. All right, I'm not going to deal with this for now. We do need to go back and we need to edit the connections. We have the IP address that we need to whitelist. So we can go out of here. We can go back to our Yelp API. We can go back here. We need to go to our database. Okay, so now that that's set, we can go back to our thing here. We can go back to our stored procedure. And now test the connection. Connection still failed. All right, it worked this time. We can then do this. If that fails, we can refresh now that we have a good connection. And we can see all of our stored procedures are here. And so we can call the, I guess we'll do the, we need to do the dimensions first. So we'll do the business update. And we can add in another stored procedure. Now we don't really need them to be in order insofar as all these ones are part of the dimensions one. So we might label this really quick. Dim businesses. I might call this dim categories. Settings. DB. Then we'll do the categories update. We'll do the stored procedure. We'll call this dim region. And we will then select that and do the regions update. And that's those are our dimensions. So from here, it looks good to me. We can now try publishing again. And our publishing is complete. We now have our dimensions, and we should be able to Usually there's a trigger or something up here and I'm not seeing it. Oh, add trigger. So if we trigger it now, so that's going to run our stored procedures, which this one executes the pipeline, which executes these three. We can then monitor it here. We can see that it failed, triggered by us with the manual. This triggered this one and then it failed. So we can check out the error. Can now open the server requested by login. 204133. Maybe Data Factory has a different manual versus automatic. 204133. Then go back to our firewall. Looks like it is slightly different. Save it. Now, sometimes these things have a rotating firewall, and if they do, then this is definitely not the right way to go about this. But we will see. We can refresh it. And this time it succeeded. So you can see it only took 6 seconds for our pipeline to run our stored procedures. That updates our data. And bam, now we have it ready. We can schedule this. So if we go back to our authoring, we go to our execute, we can do add trigger. We can do trigger now, or we can do new edit. So we can then choose the trigger. And we can call this daily. It will be type schedule, start date today, every 1 day. We could do 24 hours, what have you, Let's execute at 1 a.m. Yep. Okay. We have to publish once we do a new trigger. We publish that. And now we've set our data factory to work on a schedule. So at 1 a.m. every day, these stored procedures are going to run, even if our computer is off, even if we don't do anything. So if we put new data into these two staging tables, these will update. So our next mission is 1, we can start creating reports from the data mart that we've created and started populating. And 2, we need to start building out that Azure Functions in order to populate the staging tables every day with new data. But we'll save that for next time. But yeah, thank you for joining. If there's any questions, feel free to ask.